I know why you're here. I know you're blundering too much in your games. I know you want some help to not blunder that much in your games. I know right now, just a few minutes ago, you lost a game and you're still angry because you blundered when you were winning. That's very annoying. I know that. And I know you want me to give you some tips. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to give you some good and some bad news. For example, the bad news is you are not really going to stop blundering. That's going to happen as long as you play chess. You're going to be blundering from time to time. So sorry to tell you that, but that's the way it works. Actually, today we are going to see Masters games where the best players of the world were blundering in those games. So I know that's frustrating. I know I just destroyed you with that. But yeah, that's what is going to happen. You're going to continue blundering in your games. But also I have some good news. I have two good news I can tell you. Number one, you can stop blundering forever, easily. Uh, but the way to do it is not very nice. You need to stop playing chess. And if you stop playing chess, then you will not blunder again in chess. But of course, that's not what we want because we all love chess and we want to continue playing chess. So, jokes aside, the other thing we can do is learn to blunder less. Some techniques, some tips I can tell you so you don't blunder that much in your games. And you're going to reduce the number of blunders if you follow these instructions. But again, we will never like stop blundering forever. That's not going to happen. But I'm sure this is going to help. So, how to blunder less in your games? Let's talk about that. So, as I told you, I'm going to show you examples by super high level players, big masters, where they blundered at some point, and I'm going to use those positions to show you the tips to not blunder. Of course, the point of my analysis is not like masters are bad and they make big mistakes. Of course, that's not the idea, but I think it's more entertaining if I show you an example where a great master was blundering and made a big mistake, and we can learn from that moment. So, for example, this position is by Capablanca. I'm going to tell you my first tip here, and it's going to be avoid unprotected pieces. So this is very common when we are playing. We just forget at some point that we have some pieces that are not defended, and those are big sources of blunders because at some point there might be a fork, a thread, something, and we can lose material. So that's my tip number one, avoid unprotected pieces. Let me tell you what happened to Capablanca with black pieces. Capablanca played here bishop to a6, which is a blunder. It's a very bad move and it's losing the game. Now, after bishop a6, black has two unprotected pieces. Black has a knight here and a bishop here. They're both undefended. So white can take advantage of that, and in the game Capablanca's opponents played queen a4, and this is winning the game for white. They're attacking here, they're attacking here. The only move to try to defend is bishop b7, but this is not really working because there is a pin. So now white can play the move d5 as it happened in the game. So Capablanca got into a very bad position because he missed that. He blundered and he was in big trouble after this. So that's one example. Another example about the same topic is here. I can tell you Karpov was playing with black pieces in this position, and Karpov played the move bishop to d6. Looks totally normal, just developing, good diagonal for the bishop, it's all good. But actually bishop d6 is a big blunder. The problem is the unprotected pieces. So that's what we are talking about. There's an unprotected bishop here, unprotected knight here. White can fork with a retreat move. Going back is hard to see, but works pretty well. White is getting the advantage. White plays here queen d1, attacking the bishop, attacking the knight. And that is getting decisive advantage for white. So queen d1, unprotected pieces, and white was able to win this game because of that. So keep that in mind whenever you're playing. Be aware of the pieces that are not defended and try to defend those ones because they are a big source for blunders. My tip number two is going to be solve many puzzles. This is something we don't do during the game. This is something we can do, of course, before the game when we're training. But the work with puzzles is essential basically at any level, but especially for beginner or club or intermediate players, this is going to be very important. So the work with puzzles is essential. Don't forget it, don't ignore it. You're going to need it for sure. My tip number 3 is going to be look at your opponent's move. So I'm going to show you another example by a master. This was played by Petrosian with white pieces. I think the position is actually like this. And in this position, black played the move knight to f5. And after knight f5, I think Petrosian played something like knight g5. He completely overlooked the threat, and he lost the queen here to the move knight takes queen. So my point here is, or my tip number 3, is look at your opponent's move. The starting point of many blunders is a move by your opponent that you were not aware of how dangerous that move was, or what was that move threatening. Every time your opponent plays, you think, what is he threatening? What is he trying to do? What is this move doing? Look at your opponent's move. That's the tip. In general, if you do that, I'm sure this is going to be super helpful. You're going to reduce the number of blunders because it's the source of many, many blunders. The last move your opponent played. Keep it in mind. Tip number 4, play many games. When you're playing games, you're working with opening, with mid game, with end game. You're working with time management. You're working with everything. So playing games is going to help you for sure. You're watching your opponent's mistakes. You're watching your own mistakes. You're solving puzzles all the time when you're playing a game, because the game is, many puzzles interconnected one after the other. So again, play many games. This is going to help you for sure. The more games you play, the better it's going to be for you, and the better you will get. Keep it in mind. My tip number 5, look at the whole board. And again, this is super important. It happens all the time. I see players who focus only, for example, on a quarter of the board. Like, I'm going to play here, I'm going to attack the king, and I have many ideas. I bring my knight, I bring my bishop, and I bring my queen. Everything is good, attacking over there. But keep in mind that the board is not 4x4. It's all this. So I see mistakes like this one, bishop g5. And they just ignore the queen. They just forget the queen because they are just only thinking of one quarter of the board. And that's not the way it is. Actually, all the 4 quarters of the board are interconnected, right? So we cannot think of the board as only a small section, because they are actually 4 small sections, if you want to say it that way. And they are all interconnected. So whatever happens on a side might be affecting in some way what happens on another side of the board. Keep it in mind, because this is a very common mistake. So this is something we see all the time. Again, if you need to put yourself a little farther from the board so you can see it as a whole piece, right, as a one piece, maybe it's going to help. I'm not sure. Everyone can find their own methods, but the thing is that think of the chessboard as one thing, 8x8, 8 files, 8 ranks. You need to look at it as one piece. So let me show you another example with the same topic, and this is actually by masters. In this game, the master with white played the move king f4. This is a big blunder. Here it is black to move, and black is winning. I can say it very soon, but if you want to find it. Well, in this position, black has mate in 1. The queen from here goes here and mates here. So we cannot just ignore this queen. Even when it looks like it's far from the king, it's there, it's on the board. The board is one thing. So yeah, king f4, queen b8. This is checkmate. Think about that. Look at the whole board. That's my tip number 5. I'm going to tell you my tip number 6, and it is about checks, captures, and threats. So all the time when you are analyzing, you need to work with checks, captures, threats. Either it's your turn, you're looking for your moves, you work with checks, captures, or threats you can play. Usually those moves are going to be better. Very often those moves are forcing your opponent, and therefore they can be better because your opponent doesn't have many options. They need to play something specific responding to your check, to your capture, or to your threat. So keep that in mind. That's one thing. The other thing is that's when you are playing, but also when your opponent plays. Like, I play king f4. What is my opponent playing? Think about your opponent's checks, captures, threats. Again, those are the most important moves, the most forcing moves, and you need to keep them in mind. Checks, captures, and threats. My tip number 7 is going to be work with candidate moves. So the thing is that whenever you're playing, you should analyze by working with candidate moves. If you have time in the clock, that's something you should definitely do. Like, you don't look at one move and you play it in chess. In chess, you can think my options are option A, option B, option C, and after analyzing the three options, comparing the results, you can say my favorite is option A. So if you analyze this way, if you think this way, in general, you're going to play better moves, you're going to blunder less. So this is very important. Work with candidate moves. Work with your options, find interesting moves, compare the results, and then decide which one is going to be the best. This is going to help you, and that's my tip number 7. My tip number 8 is going to be review before you play. So this is also what we call don't play instantly, don't play immediately. So if your opponent plays something and there's something you like, you don't need to play it immediately. The position is there. The position is not going anywhere. So you can just look at the board, confirm that your idea is good, and then you play it. Let me show you an example. This is a game by Aliagin. Aliagin is playing with white pieces here. In this position, black plays queen e5. Black is attacking the bishop. And if you play immediately, you can say, well, I can defend my bishop very easily and threaten the queen with f4. So it's a good move. But actually f4 is not as good as it seems to be, because you're going to be in trouble. Your opponent can play something strong after f4. So if you play immediately, you are very likely to play this, which is not the best. I will tell you the best now. After this, black can play queen check. This is forking the bishop, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we can play like queen d4 to not lose the bishop, but then, you know, they can trade and they can pin with bishop c5. And, well, a lot of things can happen after this, but basically black is very well. You can capture here if you want, you can defend, but they can put more pressure on the pinned knight with knight c6, and you can defend, but they can still play rook e8. Again, some pressure here, and it's not easy to defend, but black is going to be better. I just want to tell you that. Even if you play this, they can trade and attack your bishop, so when the bishop goes back, they get e4. Again, this is very good for black. So my point is, after queen e5, you don't need to play immediately, right? Maybe you like f4, but maybe you review a little, you check, you try to confirm, and then you will notice that it's not really that great because your opponent can play queen c5 check. So if you review, you can think of other ideas, and then you are more likely to find the best move in the position, the one Aliagin played in the game, which is going to be bishop takes f6. After bishop f6, it's not a logical move, but that's the good thing about reviewing. When you review, you can find things that are not very logical, but in some position they might work very well, as it happens here. So bishop f6, queen f6, and then knight d5. The point is that your knight is super good. You're attacking queen, you're attacking bishop, you're attacking c7, you have many ideas. And, well, the game, of course, keeps going after this, but the position is very good, and Aliagin won the game like 10 moves later or something like that. He won a very nice game. So, you know, that's my tip number 8. Review before you play. Don't play moves instantly. My tip number 9 is going to be play slower. Here I'm not only saying don't play immediately, but also I'm saying play slower. If you're one of those players who at the end of the game has always more than half of the time they started with, then you need to think a little bit more, right? I mean, if you're playing a 10 minutes game, in all your games you have 6 minutes at the end. Well, you're playing too fast, right? You're not playing 10 minutes, you're playing 5 minutes. Almost for sure this is going to help you. My tip number 10 is going to be learn from your mistakes. So basically, you're playing, you're making mistakes, you're blundering. That's fine, that's part of the process. You need to learn from those mistakes to continue growing up. So when you review the game and you see the blunder, just, you know, look at it, enjoy it, get familiar with the pattern, watch it, and eventually you will include that pattern in your mind and your thought process, and you won't fall for it anymore. So guys, these are my 10 tips to blunder less. I'm going to repeat them very quickly. Avoid unprotected pieces, solve many puzzles, look at your opponent's move, play many games, look at the whole board as one piece, work with check captures and threats for you and for your opponent. Find candidate moves, you need to work with those in your analysis. Review before you play, because you don't want to play instantly or immediately. Play a little slower in general if you're playing too fast, and learn from your mistakes. If you do these 10 things, if you follow these 10 tips, I'm sure you will get better, you're going to blunder less. As always, if you think this was instructive or helpful, consider giving some like to the video or subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment. Interacting is going to be great. I would be very happy to do that. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much. Catch you guys in the next.